All right, year 3 on the Smoky Lake evaporator. We got the 2x6 Corsair up here. I think there was a few things that I missed on my initial video that I did on this, and some of it's just learning. You know, the first one was the first year in operation. Now we're on year 3, and so there's a couple of things that I'll go over. If you can see, we've got some new stuff up in the sugar shack, and I finally have a staircase to the loft, which is awesome. And the kitchen's done. So doors, we're not bottling in the same room as the evaporator anymore. We're actually looking to get certified this year if everything goes well and the inspector says that we're all up to snuff. So the one big thing that I was looking at, you know, I think this is kind of a semi-typical sugar shack where you've got your steel roofing, and if you notice right here, that's a lot of steam. That's just coming off the front pan. Even the hood, it's still escaping all around the hood. And this is one of the things, now this is all what the inspector told us to do. So if you're looking at getting into a small time, medium, or even big time sugar operation, you have to have these hoods in order to be legal. So that's why we have the hoods on here. But all this steam going up, now that's getting up onto the steel. I noticed this the other day, is that right up here it was beaten up with water, and that's all just from the steam coming off of this front pan. The back pan is completely sealed up, and so all that is going up. Let's see if I can find it here. Okay, there we go. I'm not very good on the reverse whole video thing. And then I mentioned before, we got this tube coming off. So the steam goes in there. There's a tray that collects in the bottom. The steam goes up, hits the side of the pan, or the side of the hood rather, and then it comes back down to the bottom, and it all eventually drains into here. It goes around, I think it's 2 sides. So anywhere where there's an angle right here, it'll come down and then it'll feed into that. And so this is actually distilled water. Technically, that is distilled water. It's just like a moonshine still, is what's going on in there. We're just not running mash. So I guess if you really wanted to get creative, you could probably turn this into a moonshine still of a sort. There would be ways to do it, which would be kind of hilarious. Have something doing double duty. But that, so I just want you all to be aware, you're going to have enough steam coming out of that front pan. I don't have my garage door closed right now, so now we'll go up the staircase that I built. My cousin's a master carpenter. He's like, you know how many builders can't build staircases? I'm like, really? Man, you think they should know that as part of the job. Okay, so right up here, when I have the door closed, I'm going to have to put a vent fan or something in there to move that steam out of the sugar shack. I don't want to get mold in here. It's the last thing that I want. And so I need to have some kind of ventilation for that. Now when I've got the door open like this, it's not too bad, because that it goes up, hits the door, and it kind of funnels some of it outside. But I don't know that it's going to be enough, and we're in spring of 2025. We're getting some really warm temperatures. End of this week, they're calling for upper 60s, which this early I haven't seen that in a very, very long time. I kind of hope they're wrong, just because I don't want it getting quite that warm. And even one of the overnights is saying 41. So one of the other things, and this is all depending on how your setup is. So I've got my head tank right here. This head tank's pretty light. It's about 100 gallons. To be able to clean it, instead of having to take this line off, I just use my line from out in the woods, 3/4. I'm going to put a banjo clamp in the middle. Actually, I'm not really in the middle, but right up here. That way I don't have a big line coming off of the head tank when I take it out to clean it, and talking to another sugar maker, that should be clean like every other day when you're really going. So I've got to get this thing down. It's light, you know, when it's empty. It's light. I can just pick it up and I can take it out. Now that we've got our tank up here, we've got all this plumbed in with PEX, and we've got our pump. And so when I take that outside, that's all permeate water from the RO. And so I can just take that tank outside, or even just disconnect it and then wash it out and drain it into a bucket, or however I need to do it, just to make it a little bit easier to clean. Because if you have to heat that line up all the time, with the torch and pulling it on and off of that barb, pretty soon your line is going to wear out, and you just hit it the wrong way with the torch, and it's going to be bad. There's one new thing that we got from Smoky Lake this year. If you've gone on their site, they have a flue scraper. We were looking for a flue brush. We could not find anybody that had a good flue brush. We weren't entirely sure what the inside of our flues were to clean that. So this year Smoky Lake came up with this. I don't know how often you're supposed to use it just now. Obviously if you get pretty sooted up in there, I would start using it. And they have different length poles. We ended up with an extra one. I think their standard setup is for 4 feet. We got it for 6. And it's really easy. You just go right in through the firebox. You go up at an angle, scrape back and forth a couple of times on each flue, and I want to say there's probably 8 flues, maybe more. I'm not sure. There's a few of them in there, even just on this 2x6. So they're as wide as whatever this is. So probably about an inch and a quarter wide. And this does have some flex on it. So you're looking at it, it'll flex in a little bit, and it'll scrape in both directions. So if you've got a Corsair or any kind of a raised flue pan, this is for a raised flue setup, and they do have one for the drop flue that might work on drop flue. I don't know, but that will help. Instead of having to pull your pan off, or I don't know, however it is that you clean it, you take a power washer to it or whatever. That's how I did it in the past. Take the pan off, which is really hard to do by myself because it's heavy and it's awkward, and I've got back issues from spraining my back, so that's kind of a no-go. So being able to clean it in between boilings is awesome. So I did it at the beginning of the season. This is my 3rd boil this year. Just a couple, I had 260 gallons one time, and then 40 the next. So now I'm on this one with 160, and it's getting RO'd down. The other ones weren't. So running through it, I've probably got 250 gallons, maybe 300 gallons of actual fluid through it. We did have some issues cleaning the pan. Last year, for whatever reason, I don't know if we just had a lot of niter or what, but it got really gunky. And I know Jim's touched on this some, but I called Smoky Lake up and I said, hey, here's my issue. How do I get this thing clean without scrubbing it? Because you don't want to scrub the stainless, especially with something abrasive, because you'll get marks in the steel and your niter and stuff will go in there, and it burns easier. So he said 50-50 vinegar and water. And then they said soak that for a while, and then drain it out, wet it down, spray it, and then put some baking soda on it, spray some more of that vinegar water mix on there, let it sit for a little bit, and then I'm trying to think of the name of the cloth you use. Basically, it's a non-abrasive cloth. I can't remember if it's here's the one that I use. Something like this. I can't remember if this is a Norwex or like a micro cloth, whatever. Anyway, something that's non-abrasive. You don't want to get in, you're not trying to scrub it clean. You're just trying to wipe off stuff, and then you squirt it down with that vinegar mixture again, more baking soda. Let it sit. It's a chemical reaction between the baking soda and the vinegar. Let that fizz up, and that'll clean your pans. So, yeah, I think that's all I got on this one. So, happy boiling. We'll see you next time.